My fiancée told me I was just a broke loser without her daddy's help. She thought I'd crawl away and vanish. But what I did next made her family choke on every smug word they'd ever said. Subscribe so you don't miss what's next. I swear I didn't see it coming. We were sitting in her parents' kitchen, sun pouring in through those spotless glass windows that probably cost more than my car. I'd just told them I quit my job at the bank to start my own marketing agency. Before I could even explain the plan, Lexi laughed. Not a nervous laugh, the kind you give someone when they just spilled ketchup on their shirt. You without Dad's contacts, she said, looking at me like I'd just announced I was moving to Mars. Jake, you're nothing without us. Her dad didn't even look up from his phone. Just smirked, that smug little smirk I'd seen every time he picked up the check at dinner and slid it toward me like a charity handout. I didn't say a word. I just sat there, nodding like I agreed. Letting the silence stretch so long she shifted in her chair. My brother Ryan always told me never fight back in the moment. Let them think they've won. That night, I packed a bag, no dramatic speech, no goodbye note, just gone. I left the engagement ring in the kitchen drawer next to the wine opener. Lexi didn't call. Her dad didn't either, and I thought that was the end. I was wrong. Because 3 years later, when my company's name was on a Times Square billboard, they came crawling back, but not for congratulations. And that's when the real game began. 3 years isn't that long. But it felt like I'd lived a dozen lives in between. When I left Lexi, I slept on Ryan's couch for 6 months. We ate instant noodles, split rent on a shared office in a basement, and hustled until our eyes burned from staring at screens. That basement smelled like damp carpet and burned coffee. But it was ours. Every client call, every pitch, I recorded them. Not because I didn't trust people, but because Ryan had drilled it into me. Always have the tape, a voice never lies. Fast forward to last month, I'd just wrapped a meeting with a Fortune 500 client when my receptionist buzzed me. Some people here to see you, she said, her voice too careful. It was Lexi and her father. She looked like she'd stepped out of a fashion magazine, except her smile was cracked at the edges. Her dad, in his perfect navy suit, still had that same smirk, but there was something new in his eyes. Calculation, we need your help. Lexi started. No hello, no how have you been? I just leaned back in my chair. Let the silence hang, the kind that makes people squirm. Her dad broke first. Someone's trying to ruin our company. Smear campaign, fabricated audio clips. Audio, my ears pricked up. Lexi leaned forward. They're using some kind of AI to fake our voices. We thought, well, you deal with this stuff, you'd know what to do. I didn't answer, just watched them. I could almost hear Ryan in my head. They didn't come for help, Jake, they came for a lifeline. And that's when I realized whatever this was, it wasn't just business, this was personal. Because the fake voice they were talking about, I'd already heard it weeks ago, and it was mine. The first time I heard it, I thought it was a prank. It was Tune M, and I was finishing edits on a client campaign when Ryan emailed me a file titled "Tough Is This?" No subject line, just the attachment. I clicked play, my voice came through flat, calm, saying things I'd never say. Transfer the funds to the offshore account. Don't leave a paper trail. And make sure the client's biometric data is scrubbed before the handoff. It wasn't just my voice, it was perfect. Every pause, every throat clear, every half laugh. Whoever made it had access to hours of me talking, and they knew what they were doing. Ryan had called me right after sending it. Jake, this crap's making rounds in some industry group chats. If it spreads, we're dead. I'd spent the next week quietly reaching out to a few people I trusted, asking where it came from. Every lead fizzled out. The audio always showed up in some anonymous file drop folder. No origin, no metadata. Whoever planted it knew how to cover their tracks. And now here Lexi was, claiming her family was being hit with the same thing. Why are you telling me this? I asked her, keeping my voice steady. Because, she said, and I saw her nails dig into her palm. The new clip they're spreading, it's you and me, talking, planning to take down my dad's company. Her father didn't flinch, and we can prove it's fake, but someone's using it to blackmail us. I let that sit. If that was true, it meant someone was trying to ruin me and using Lexi as the perfect detonator. I didn't invite them to sit, kept them standing in my office like they were pitching me. Play it, I said. Lexi blinked. What? The recording? If it's so bad, let me hear it. Her dad's jaw tightened. We don't have it on us. Silence. I just watched them. Lexi shifted her weight, eyes darting toward him. That told me everything. They had it, but they weren't ready for me to have it. You came here about an audio file and didn't bring the audio file, I asked. That's either sloppy or intentional. Which one? Lexi tried to recover. We can send it later. The point is, no, I cut in. The point is, I'm not moving a finger until I know exactly what I'm dealing with. Her dad stepped closer, that corporate predator energy radiating off him. This isn't a game, Jake. If these fakes keep spreading, we all go down. The we all part stuck in my head. I didn't recall ever being part of their we. I leaned back in my chair, letting the silence drag until the hum of the AC felt like a roar in the room. Finally, Lexi said, we'll send it tonight. Just please, don't talk to anyone else about this. That was the second red flag. They didn't want me to talk to anyone, which meant someone else out there already knew more than I did, and they didn't want me finding them. When they left, Ryan called from downstairs. They gone? Yeah, I said. You gonna help them? I stared at the closed door. I'm gonna help me, because if this was blackmail, I wasn't just the target, I was the bait. The email from Lexi landed at 11:42 p.m. No subject, just a download link. Ryan was sitting on the other end of our shared office, hoodie up, chewing sunflower seeds like he was clocking overtime for paranoia. You ready? I asked. He spun around in his chair, born ready. I clicked the link. The file opened in our audio suite, waveforms crisp and clean. Whoever did this new sound engineering. And then my voice, hers. Once we get the biometric data from the beta users, we'll dump it on the black market. Your dad won't see it coming. Hearing me say it, even knowing it was fake, made my stomach twist. The sync between our voices was eerie, overlapping breaths, little filler words we actually used in real conversations years ago. Ryan froze the track at 1:42. A man zoomed in. Look here, see that glitch, half a frame missing. That's a stitch mark, meaning they pieced this together from other recordings. Which means he spun his monitor toward me. Someone's got a big-ass library of your voice. And hers. I already knew where my hours of audio lived in my own archives, secured. But Lexi, she'd spent years on her dad's corporate calls, charity events, media panels. Her voice was public domain for anyone with the patience to scrape it. Ryan ran the file through a forensic tool. Bingo, the metadata says it was processed on a machine registered in Connecticut, same county her dad's Huck is in. My pulse picked up. If the blackmail came from that close, then either someone inside his company was gunning for him or he was staging the whole thing. And if it was the second, then I was walking straight into his trap. I wasn't about to accuse Lexi outright. People like her fold better when they think they're still in control. So the next morning, I called her, kept my tone casual, like I was already on her side. Been digging into the file, I said. Looks like it's tied to a breach in an old project of mine. I might know where the leak came from. She bit. Where? Can't say yet, I replied, letting the silence stretch. But if it gets out, your dad's not the only one in trouble. Her inhale was sharp. So what's next? I'm going to meet a guy tonight, off the record. If he confirms what I think, we'll have a lead. That meeting didn't exist, it was bait. Ryan and I set up a voice trigger alert on my server, a little script that pinged us if someone uploaded or mentioned my name in connection to a new file. If Lexi or her dad passed along my fake meeting, we'd know exactly where it landed. By 10 p.m., the alert went off. The phrase Jake Morrison warehouse meet popped up on a darknet relay board tied to corporate sabotage chatter. Ryan leaned back. She ran to someone fast, and that's when my gut twisted. Either Lexi was in on it, or someone she trusted was feeding the blackmailer. Either way, I had a leak. What I didn't know yet was that plugging it was going to cost me my only safe line of contact, and that losing it would shove me into Tang 4.5 faster than I was ready for. The leak pointed straight to a name I didn't expect: Mason Grant. Mason wasn't just some random suit. He was Lexi's dad's head of it, and the one guy in that company who'd ever treated me like I was an idiot for not having a trust fund. 3 years back, when I was still the fiancé, he'd pulled me aside at a gala and whispered, "Careful, the Whitmores play long games." So when I saw his handle posting my fake warehouse meet on that relay board, I wanted to believe there was another explanation. I texted him, "Need to talk, urgent." He agreed to meet at a diner off the interstate, the kind with cracked vinyl booths and coffee that tastes like old pennies. When I slid into the booth across from him, he didn't look surprised, just tired. "Lexi told me you had a lead," he said, keeping his voice low. "Her dad wanted me to vet it by leaking it to the exact place our blackmailer hangs out." I shot back. He didn't flinch. "If it's real, we smoke them out. If it's fake, we see you bites." Standard counterintelligence. I leaned in. "And if it's me you're smoking out." That got me a tiny, almost sad smile. "Then I guess I just burned the last bridge you had in that house." That was it. No apology, no denial. He finished his coffee, left a 5 on the table, and walked out. I sat there staring at the door, realizing Mason had just handed me my first true loss in this mess, my only inside contact. And now, without him, I was flying blind. Losing Mason meant I had 0 eyes inside Whitmore Corp. Ian didn't sugarcoat it. We're boxed out men. Only way in now is to crack them from the outside. The problem: whoever was engineering these fake clips was good. Too good. Every trace we chased led to a dead server, or an IP across 3 continents. I knew there was one place I might get a break: the Whitmore server farm. It sat in a climate-controlled bunker under their huck, with biometric access only, voice pattern plus palm scan. Lexi had once joked about it when we were engaged. "You're lucky, your voice could open more doors than your resume." That line came back to me now, like a dare. I still had an old systems account from when I freelanced on one of their marketing campaigns. It was supposed to be dead, but if the admins got lazy it might still ping the entry log. Ian hated the idea. One wrong move and they'll know exactly who's inside. "I'm not walking in blind," I told him. "If they're staging this blackmail, the files will be there. And if they're not," I hesitated, "at least I'll know. We planned it for Sunday night, when the building ran on skeleton staff. My voice print was in their archive from a dozen promo shoots. All I had to do was match the tone and pace exactly, standing in that concrete stairwell. Mick pressed to the reader. Hearing the click of the lock disengage, I felt the kind of rush that only comes when you know you're one step from winning, or one step from losing it all, and I didn't know yet which one it would be. The server room was colder than I remembered. The hum of the racks filled the space, steady and low like a giant mechanical heartbeat. I moved fast. Ryan was on comms from his apartment, guiding me through the directory tree he'd mapped from old floor plans. Third rack from the left, bottom drive, he said. Look for a folder labeled Archive Beta. I found it tucked under layers of innocuous project files. Inside were dozens of subfolders, each named with a date and a pair of initials. I opened one at random. Audio, lots of it, hours of calls, private meetings. Client pitches. My voice popped up in at least 5 clips, all sliced and spliced like the fake tapes we'd been chasing. Lexi's voice was in even more. This is it, I whispered. Copy it all, Ryan urged. I hooked up my portable drive. Transfer speed 64 minutes. Too long. I filtered for the Connecticut timestamps from our earlier clue, trimmed it down to just those. Transfer time dropped to under 8 minutes. 5 minutes in, the lights above flickered. Jake, Ryan's voice crackled. You just tripped an active login alert. Someone's watching the system in real time. My chest tightened. I yanked the drive early, stuffed it in my jacket. The door clunked. Someone was unlocking it from the outside. Get out, Ryan hissed. Only one way out, the maintenance hatch behind the VOC unit. I slid in, heart pounding against the narrow metal walls, and crawled until I hit the emergency exit grate. When I tumbled into the alley, I thought I'd made it, until I saw who was waiting by the dumpster, Lexi, and she didn't look surprised to see me at all. She didn't say a word at first, just watched me catch my breath. One eyebrow lifted like she'd been standing there for hours. You really can't help yourself, can you? Lexi finally said. I kept my jacket zipped. What are you doing here? Her smile was small. Sharp, same thing you are. Looking for answers. A black SUV eased into the alley behind her, tinted windows, engine idling. 2 guys in plain suits stepped out. The kind who looked like they could blend in anywhere until you noticed they had the same earpiece. Lexi glanced at my pocket. Whatever you just pulled off those servers, you should hand it over now. My throat went dry, and if I don't, her father's voice floated from the SUV, then you lose more than just your little business. One of the suits stepped forward. Palm open, I could feel the portable drive pressing against my ribs like it was burning a hole in my coat. Ryan's voice buzzed in my earpiece. Jake, you need to move in out. I waited. Run and risk them taking me down in the street, or hand it over and watch months of work vanish. Lexi tilted her head. Your choice. But either way, that drive isn't leaving with you. The hum of the SUV's engine and the cold alley air pressed in. I could hear my own heartbeat in my ears. And that's when I realized Tank 5 wasn't a drop. It was a slow push. Step by step. Until you look down and there's no ground left. I loosened my zipper, my fingers brushing the drive one last time, and made my choice. I went for the third option, distraction. Fine, I said, pulling the drive from my jacket. I held it between 2 fingers. Just loose enough to make them nervous. The closer suit stepped forward. At the same time, I pammed my phone and hit the preset Ryan and I had agreed on. A burst of feedback through my earpiece, loud enough to make me wince. The suit flinched in that second. I spun the drive underhand toward the far end of the alley. It clattered against the wet concrete, just out of reach of everyone. I bolted the other way, didn't make it 10 steps. Something hard slammed into my ribs, knocking the air out of me. I hit the wall. Vision going white at the edges. By the time I could focus again, the suit had the drive. Lexi was holding it now, weighing it in her palm. You should've just handed it over, Jake. She climbed into the SUV. The door shut with a heavy thunk, and the vehicle slid away like nothing had happened. I staggered out of the alley, one arm wrapped around my ribs, and heard Ryan in my ear. Tell me you got out with it. I didn't answer, because that was it. Months of digging. Every scrap of proof I'd managed to scrape together gone in under 30 seconds. Worse, I knew they wouldn't just delete it. They'd twist it, make it into something that would bury me deeper. Wasn't a theory anymore. I was in it, and I had nothing left but a voice in my ear, and a brother who sounded just as scared as I felt. The next morning, I sat in Ryan's kitchen, staring into a mug of cold coffee I hadn't touched. Every plan I'd built was gone. The SUV scene replayed in my head like a bad loop. Ryan dropped a paper bag of bagels on the table. You've been quiet, he said. Nothing left to say. I muttered, they've got the drive. They'll twist it, then feed it back to the same channels they used for the fake clips. We're finished. He didn't argue, just tore into a bagel, chewing slow. That silence should have been comforting, but it wasn't. It felt like watching the end of something. I got up to rinse my mug. That's when I noticed it, the faint smear on my jacket sleeve. Pale, almost invisible against the fabric, but not to me. Lexi's hand had brushed me when she reached for the drive. She'd been wearing that biometric XS Whitmore key cream. The kind that left a polymer trace for scanners to read. It hit me all at once. If the key cream was on me, I could trip the same scanner she used. And Whitmore's archive wasn't just in that server bunker. The marketing wing kept a mirrored drive for legal audits. Off-site, in a storage facility I'd worked in once, Ryan caught the look on my face. What, I think, I said slowly, they forgot about the backup. He blinked, the off-site one yet. And thanks to Lexi, I've got the access signature to get in, for the first time in days. My chest didn't feel like it was caving in. It was stupid, risky, borderline insane. But it was also the only way left to pull this out of the fire. The off-site storage facility sat in a quiet industrial park an hour outside the city. No signage, no windows. Just a gray cube with a single security door and a keypad that looked older than half the tech inside. Ryan parked 2 blocks away. Last chance to back out, he said. I flexed my fingers, feeling the faint tackiness from the polymer smear Lexi had left. If we back out now, they win. The night guard barely looked up from his tablet as I approached. I kept my hood low, my face in shadow, and pressed my palm smear and all to the reader. The light flashed green. Inside, the air smelled of dust and cold metal. Rows of steel shelves lined with labeled drives stretched into the dark. Ryan's voice in my ear guided me down to row Camilla 17. There it was, a matte black case with the Whitmore crest, sealed with a simple latch. Inside, a slim encrypted drive. I slipped it into my jacket and moved fast. No need to get greedy. Back at the car, Ryan plugged it into his laptop. The files bloomed onto the screen, raw audio sessions, untouched metadata, uncut and undid. Dozens of them were the same clips the blackmailer had used, except these were originals. No splices, no fake context. And in one of them, clear as day, was Lexi's dad in a board meeting, bragging about our little AI project and how they could make anyone say anything. He even named me as the test subject. Ryan let out a low whistle. This is it, Jake. Level 2 evidence. They can't talk their way out of this. I leaned back in the seat, heart hammering. For the first time, I wasn't chasing their lies, I was holding the truth. We didn't go home. Not yet. Ryan drove straight to his office, our old basement hawk, still reeking of coffee grounds and damp carpet, and air-gapped the laptop before we even opened the files again. First rule, he said, we make 3 copies. One for us, one for the lawyer, one for the press if it comes to that. By the time we'd finished, it was nearly 3 a.m. I was dead on my feet, but too wired to sleep. Every instinct screamed that the Whitmores would hit back hard the moment they sensed we had this. I was right. At 9:17 a.m., my phone lit up with an unknown number. I answered, and Lexi's voice came through, calm, measured. Jake, I know you have something. This is your last chance to walk away. We can make this disappear. You keep your little company. We forget the rest. I almost laughed. That's not how this is going to play. A pause. Then you think you understand the game, but you're just another pawn. And pawns get sacrificed. The line went dead. Minutes later, Ryan's secure email pinged an anonymous tip claiming I'd been using stolen biometric data from our clients for years. Attached were fake contracts and doctored voice clips, already circulating to 3 of our biggest accounts. They're trying to nuke your rep before you can fire, Ryan said, jaw tight. I stared at the drive on the desk. This wasn't just about clearing my name anymore. If I hesitated, they'd scorch the earth around me until there was nothing left to save. I picked up my phone, called a lawyer, and Harvard this time isn't the goal, we're going federal. Our lawyer Sandoval didn't waste time. Second she heard the raw files, she stopped me mid-sentence. This isn't just defamation, Jake. This is criminal fraud, wire fraud, and unlawful surveillance. We're skipping the civil route and going to the by noon. We were in a bland government conference room with 2 agents in Navy suits. No small talk, just a recorder on the table and a legal pad between them. I laid the drive down like it was a loaded weapon. Ryan handled the tech breakdown, showing the untouched metadata, the original unspliced audio, and how the fake clips were built from these masters. Then we played the boardroom recording Lexi's dad, bragging about making anyone say anything. The agent's pen stopped moving. One of them asked, Mr. Morrison, are you willing to testify to all of this in court? Every word, I said. From there it moved fast. Warrants, seizures, a quiet but very visible escort of Whitmore Corp's its staff out of their offices. By the next morning, the smear files about me were flagged as fraudulent in industry channels, traced back to servers registered under shell companies tied to Lexi's dad. And then the kicker, the buy called to tell me they'd found my stolen portable drive during the raid and touched. 2 weeks later, I watched on the evening news as Whitmore Sr. was let out in cuffs. Lexi, she was listed as a person of interest, but not arrested, at least not yet. Ryan popped a beer, handed it to me and grinned. From broke loser to federal witness, not bad, huh? I just leaned back, listening to the sound of my own unaltered voice on the TV, telling the truth for the first time without anyone twisting it. And that silence, the one where they couldn't answer back, was better than any billboard. 6 months later, the Whitmores were ghosts. The company was gutted, their names scrubbed from the kind of circles they once owned. I'd rebuilt my client list, bigger than before. But the thing I kept wasn't a contract or a dollar figure, it was a single file on a clean, encrypted drive, the boardroom recording, the one they could never fake, never twist. Sometimes I played it just to remind myself, not for the words, I knew them by heart, but for the sound, my voice in the background, calm, steady, refusing to be baited. Ryan caught me doing it once. You still holding on to that? He asked. Yeah, I said. It's proof you were right. A note, I said, closing the lid on the drive. Proof I survived. The jacket I'd worn that night at the server farm still hung in my office closet. The faint polymer smear was long gone, but I kept it anyway, my little relic, the touch that opened the door. And sometimes when the office was quiet, I'd lean back, close my eyes and enjoy the silence, not the kind Lexi used to throw at me when she wanted to cut me down. This was my silence, the kind you earn when every voice that tried to bury you finally has nothing left to say. Thanks for watching. Hit subscribe to check out more stories on my channel.